Hello, great afternoon. We hope that you are with the right energy for the last session of the main plenary of the conference. We have in the next 2 hours, we have a collection of really unique speakers and topics that we'll share here with you in these sessions. We are going to have representatives from leading companies, from startups, from VCs, and from the government. And as a concluding part of a session, we hope that this will release you in 2 hours with a bit of more knowledge, with a lot of more experience, and with thoughts for the next year towards the next Cyber Week. Of course, we are going to have more events in the Cyber Week during later today and tomorrow. So this event does not complete the entire Cyber Week, but the main plenary session. And with that, in this packed agenda, it's my pleasure to jump to the first session. And this first session is interesting from 2 reasons. One, we are going to hear about really interesting kind of a phenomena or interesting way of detecting things with leading speakers. On the other hand, the 2 speakers are father and a daughter. This is makes it really even more inspiring and nice to hear the synergy. So this is my pleasure to invite my friend Amichai Shulman, who is already several entrepreneur, successful partner and leader that right now he is the CTO and the co-founder of Nokod Security, with Stav Shulman, who is a senior researcher in Google Cloud. Please.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session today, C&C Whack Malware. I'm Amichai Shulman. Together with me is Stav Shulman. And we will tell you about a research we did in the domain of how to create a botnet that never dies. So today, what we'll talk about is a little bit about the motivation for the research, then a short intro to botnets and how we fight them today, followed by an explanation of how you can actually create a botnet that never dies, and some summary and conclusions. So without further ado, why did we pick on botnets? Because in today's environment, any modern cyber attack campaign at scale needs to rely on a functioning botnet. If you want to do a DDoS attack, if you want to do carding, credential stuffing, if you want to do successful and effective SQL injection campaigns, you need to have a botnet. So a lot of personas and groups in the underground are creating these botnets, maintaining them either for their own use or in order to then rent them or provide them as a service to other threat actors. So the success or failure of the botnet determines the outcome of a criminal cyber attack campaign. And if researchers are neutralizing the botnet, then they actually destroy the operation. So we're thinking, is it possible to create a botnet that never dies, that cannot be neutralized? Can this type of botnet be cost effective? Because most threat actors that are not nation state have limited budgets and look at cost effectiveness when they do their campaigns. And probably the biggest one is, can we survive this joint research? So a little bit about botnets. So far, if you want to have a working botnet, then you need to take over some servers, and then you need to register domains. And you need to start doing that at scale because researchers are constantly after you. Sometimes you can use social media profiles or storage services accounts. Now, these are more trickier to create and maintain. It gets more complex, and we see the more advanced threat actors using them. And then, of course, you could always try and use some traditional legit tools that are used for network maintenance. And again, it gets more complex to use them and maintain them over time. So with that in mind, what researchers are doing, they're constantly chasing these compromised servers, those domains that are being registered by the threat actors, and are taking them down, but at the same time, they are sending IOCs, so the signatures for those domains or addresses or account identifiers to all security devices, so all communication between the bots and the infrastructure, the communication infrastructure, are cut down. So when an attacker creates the infrastructure again, all existing bots cannot communicate with it. And this is a big loss for attackers. So it seems that researchers are winning this fight against botnet, which is usually the case with criminal threat actors. With nation-state threat actors, they are losing. They are losing because these have unlimited budgets, so they defy gravity, so to speak, because they can register a lot of domain names endlessly. They can maintain at large scale social media profile, storage services profile, and so on. So to us, it seemed unfair that nation states can do things that your average, everyday hacker cannot achieve. So we say, how can we get back power to the people? How can someone who does not have unlimited resources create this type of botnet that never dies? So it has to be relying on public infrastructure, should be the same as legitimate traffic, and most importantly, cheap, and bots never die. How did we do that?
So with this idea in mind, we went on the hunt for this publicly available infrastructure that will serve this infrastructure that we're looking to create. We know it must ensure us that we can create bot samples that don't contain any explicit command and control information. The account registration for this platform has to be free or very cheap and shouldn't have any special requirements. The content creation for this platform we're looking for must not be scrutinized because we'll have to upload malicious content to it. And lastly, it should allow for anonymous data consumption because the bots will have to retrieve this malicious data back. But even if we were to find a platform that provides all of these capabilities, there is still one very important question for us that remains unresolved. And that's of how can a bot that don't contain any explicit command and control information can actually properly function. And that was our aha moment. We've realized that when we don't know something, like the bot, we Google it, we search it, and so our bots must do the same. So our bots don't know the C&C, but they do know how to search for a C&C. Now, bots know a C&C when they see one, see? And search terms are always legit, right? So with all of these loose ends tied up, we've realized that there is actually an abundance of platforms that we can abuse for this infrastructure. And I am now super excited to show you one example we've demonstrated, and it's the Spot bot. Obviously, this is a bot communicating over Spotify infrastructure. So Spotify, as we've learned, is actually a perfect match to all of our criteria, because all types of media that are available on Spotify can be consumed anonymously. It offers a great abundance of search terms and modifiers to be performed on said media anonymously. For Spotify podcasts, all content is not scrutinized in any way, nor for copyright or for offensive content. And anybody can be a Spotify podcaster, so we did just that. And we started our own brand new malicious podcast, and we started embedding different bot commands into different aspects of it. We went ahead and we created our bot samples. So each of our Spot bots is equipped with a set of keywords and a public key. Spotbot actively searches Spotify for its keywords, receiving back many results. It can determine which of the results is the correct one by matching a digital signature from it with its public key. And then, as a result, it can receive either commands to be executed on the infected host, or that it can receive additional clues to additional malicious objects on Spotify. And so Spotbot continues on and on to search for these keywords and for commands. Now let's assume that the absolute worst had happened, and some researcher happened to track down all of our content, getting it removed from Spotify in an attempt to kill all our bots. Well, in this case, we can just go ahead and upload new and fresh content into Spotify, because we're always aware of the keywords Spotbots are searching. And then Spotbots will forever continue to search for their keywords, meaning that Spotbots can never die, leaving us and the researchers playing the very vicious game of whack-a-malware. And to summarize everything we've just discussed, so we could prove that multiple publicly available platforms can provide the opportunity for actors to build these very resilient botnets. We were very privileged to team up with groups of students from the Israeli Technion that demonstrated this concept based on additional platforms. So things you all know, YouTube, Reddit, Trello, and the sky is the limit in this case. And all of these platforms can be very easily put to work by the actors using publicly available, simple, very legitimate APIs. And the cost for these actors to create and maintain these type of infrastructure is not only very cheap, but is actually decreasing. We even gained some conclusions during this research. The main one being that the toolbox for defenders must change, and that our generic defenses that are mainly based on things like IOCs are failing to protect us against this new breed of uber-resilient botnets that are very cheap and simple for the actors to construct, but are then very expensive and complex for us to take down. And so we're expecting to see a completely new breed of tools being put to place against them. And these tools must be based on response content, and not based on things like URIs, domain names, and IP addresses. And of course, these tools has to be platform agnostic in order to match all possible scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you.